Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be going over some of the stuff that GW have discussed so far about 9th edition. I'm going to give my thoughts and feedback. They did a Q&A show the other day on Twitch, which was, there's a lot of information attached to that. There's also some stuff they mentioned which I want to talk about potential like new characters or big characters returning and potential like new codexes like the Death Watch and stuff. So let's just jump in, let's just lose ourselves and let's just get talking. I just want to say before we actually do deep dive into this that I am more of a narrative slash rule of cool type of player. So when I'm discussing these rules, when I'm talking about it, try and see it from my kind of standpoint. I'm not like a big, a big boy tournament player who does all these things, and really goes into it and breaks it down and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure there's other channels out there that does a fantastic job about that, and if you want to go and check them out, then go and find them. There's plenty of channels talking about this at the moment. I'm just going to be talking about it from my personal standpoint. So one of the main talking points at the moment is about horde armies and terrain and stuff. From looking at this and from listening to it and stuff, terrain is going to be a massive thing in 9th edition. Even more so, like when you speak about horde armies, like one of the things we were talking about was like how a horde army is going to be affected, because one of the problems is you could be targeted and stuff anywhere on the map, and they went into more like terrain is going to be very more useful now for like gene stealers. They can like tuck into the terrain, be hidden by the terrain. You're not going to have that kind of situation anymore where you have like an executioner tank that peeks a little bit out of a building and it can see like a little bit of a corner of like a wing or a claw or something, and that means the entire unit can be like fired upon with every bloody gun the executioner can like just bloody purge you with. All that kind of stuff is going to be going in 9th edition, which to be fair is probably the right change to make. Even though I love my executioner tanks, even though I love purging from a distance, it didn't really make that much sense where you're firing every gun, even like where your gun's like just not even looking at the bloody target and stuff like that. So for me, I think that is kind of a welcome change when it comes to like terrain and line of sight type of rules. They mentioned changes to Overwatch and actually falling back from battle. It says there's going to be new core stratagems that give melee armors a boost and make it worth going across the board, which is again, there's another massive thumbs up from me because I love melee in 40k. I've attempted to play like melee armors before, but with just completely no success. What normally happens, since you have like such sheer firepower at your disposal, by the time you get your stuff into that melee range, it's more or less just not even like the full unit, or it's just not even worth taking it into melee. Like, you have these awesome characters like Chapter Masters with like Sword of the Imperium and the Burning Blade, Gilliman, you really want to get these chaps into combat, but what they end up doing is really just becoming buffers, because there's really no point in pushing your units really up the board to really use them as the characters. They just become like buff tokens in your army. So if I can actually get these chaps up the battlefield and start using them more and actually get them into melee and just purge with them, just to have some fun with these models, then I'm definitely going to welcome that. And of course that means more awesome stuff for Black Templars, which again is always going to be a bonus for me. Command points was a big talking point as well, and I really like the sound what they're doing with command points. It's not like at the moment like you can like make a battalion and have so many command points, but it's hard for like armies like Custodians, like where you make a battalion, it's so many points and stuff like that. So what they're doing they said they're actually going to be making the command points even, and it's going to be really based on what kind of size you're playing at, which is really, really good. So everyone's really on the like a kind of an even footing when it comes to command points. You're not going to have like an Imperial Guard player that has completely like 1 million bloody command points and you're sat there with like just a spearhead detachment because that's all you can get with like the bloody points you can afford. So I really do like the changes of that and making it a bit more balanced on like that front. And how you can spend them sounds fantastic as well, because they mentioned something called strategic reserve. So basically what you can do, you can spend your command points, they were saying, and you can put stuff in reserve. So let's just take, for example, I can put like a full-on Black Templar Sword Brethren squad in reserve, which normally can't go in reserve, and then like halfway through the game, or how many bloody turns into the game, you can bring that in, and then you can like flank your enemy. You can actually bring it in and just like put it on its side. So really there's no really safe space. I think that'll open the game up a little bit more and just make it a more fun experience, because at the moment it's just like lining up and you're just pushing things at each other. So if you can start bringing like certain different aspects into like I don't know, like a Baneblade can be put in a strategic reserve, and you push forward and all of a sudden a huge massive enemy Beyblade comes to your rear. You're like, oh my god, I completely forgot about the Beyblade, even though you probably won't forget about Beyblade, but you know what I mean? That really opens the game up. It makes you think a little bit more. So I am definitely looking forward to see what more they do with that, and the more information attached to that, because again, I've got so many bloody melee stuff I just want to use in my army, but it's just like getting it across the board and fighting it, and all this kind of stuff I'm hearing now is just getting me excited to just unleash the power swords, the chain swords, and all that kind of cool stuff. They also mentioned, this was actually in the trailer, that tanks can shoot into battles, and one of the questions was, well, what about monsters? What can monsters do? And they actually said, anything tanks can do, monsters can do, and the quote was, if not better. So, you know, if you have like Gazskull, who's a monsterish unit, and he gets into melee combat, he can probably, you know, unleash his Daka cannon in there without falling back and stuff if you actually, you know, want to shoot with it, which is really, really good. I think anything that is in base contact should be able to shoot, because I know it's like a melee aspect, but if it's a tank, and one of the problems was, is like grots swarming a tank, and the tank gunner couldn't shoot because like one grot touched like the base of the tank. It's like, okay, we can't do anything. Where in reality, the Baneblade or the Leman Russ swamped by a grots would be like these little gits, and just, you know, charge them or just like unleash all the cannons and just wipe them all out kind of thing. That's what you want in your 40k games. Some interesting things about the Space Marine stuff. One of the questions was, can all the chapters use the new toys, specifically the bikes and stuff was the main thing, and they said yes, you can paint the new Space Marines in whatever colour you like, available to all the different chapters of Space Marines. So that means Dark Angels, Space Wolves, Blood Angels, you know, just everyone can use these. So of course everyone can use them, because at the end of the day, it's selling it to you as a customer. Everyone should be able to do it because it means more money for GW. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. One of the questions was, does that include Deathwatch? Now this is one of the interesting things, because they did go into Deathwatch a little bit and talk, and I personally think it's a hint towards a new Deathwatch Codex, because as I mentioned, someone asked, can you use the bikes in the Deathwatch Codex, and they said yes. They said stuff like you know, something's coming very, very soon, and if I'm not mistaken, one of the quotes was, fruits of their labours will be revealed. So for me, that is a massive hint to that something is coming for the Deathwatch. The way I see what's going to be happening, because we'll go into a little bit more about this in a minute, because they do mention the codexes and stuff like that, is Necrons are going to get a new codex. We've already seen the leak of the new Necron codex, so we know that's definitely coming. Of course, Space Marines are going to get a new codex, because there's far too many units now that are outside the actual codex itself, and so they are definitely going to get one. Yes, they will probably get box rules for now when the actual box set comes out, but down the line, I say probably a month after the Necron Codex, I'd probably wager that you got to see a new Space Marine Codex, and then after that, I would probably say something like the Deathwatch Codex to go along with the Space Marine stuff. One of the questions that really piqued my senses, someone said, what other major players may return this edition, and they answered that really big and exciting ones, and I was like, oh boy, here we go, get ready for like Varak's 9 Primarch videos, which one's coming back. So I definitely think there's going to be Primarchs coming back this edition. I know I've said it all the time, but this is the time. Now, if we look at 8th edition, for me, there was 4 massive characters that come back. 5 if you want to include Gazskull. Yes, let's put Gazskull in there. So you got Abaddon, you've got Magnus, you've got Mortarion, Rebute, and Gazskull. I know some of them are new models. Most of, well, the other 3, the Primarchs, are kind of returning ones to the setting to open up new stories and stuff like that. I definitely think that's going to be the same for 9th edition. I would personally say, this is just my personal standpoint on this, is that Fulgrim will probably return first, or a Demonic Primarch before a Loyalist Primarch. Angron or Fulgrim, if I had a choice, it would probably be Angron, but because we've had so many hints of Fulgrim in the Psychic Awakening books, I'm really thinking that Fulgrim will probably be the traitor Primarch that we'll be seeing first, maybe then followed by a Loyalist Primarch, the Lion, the Khan, Vulcan, Corax, Rogel, Dawn. You know, you've got so many bloody chances, or so many options to really go down with all the different narrative stories you can actually open with this. But I definitely do think we will see new Primarchs in 9th edition. Forge World got a shout out on the stream. Someone asked about Forge World books and rules and stuff. Krieg was one of the main talking points, and they did confirm that going forward, that all rules and everything like that, we are actually going to get new rules for Forge World units that are actually working on them at the moment, but all future rules won't be done by the Forge World team anymore. It's actually going to be done by the Games Workshop team, because what was happening is that Forge World were making these awesome models, and they are awesome, you know, I love the Astraeus tank, but they were not really consulting the Warhammer team when it came to the rules. So they were making the rules, and in some cases, like, some of these models were incredibly broken, like the Telemon Dreadnought, when you bring it over to 40k and stuff, you just come in and absolutely wreck and everything like that. So for now, they are completely taking over designing the rules, not the actual models themselves. Forge World will still be producing the models, but when it comes to the rules, it's Games Workshop rules team that will be making them. One of the things that stuck out for me was the talk about all the books working with future content, because we all know, as they've mentioned before, that all the stuff that we've got now will work with 9th edition. But someone brought up, how will it work if you get like a new codex and you're still using like the Vigilus book? And they said the plan is to take like the best of the contents within like books of the Psychic Awakening, like the stratagems, the relics and stuff like that, and incorporate them into a future codex. And they did say that some of the stratagems and relics may not necessarily make the cut. Now for me, I'm a bit confused at this, so maybe one of you chaps can help me out and clear me up. But so let's say, for example, I buy an Eldar Codex, the new Eldar Codex. I know we are going to the realm of madness here now, but I also want to use some of the stuff from the Psychic Awakening stuff that the Eldar got. Now, some of the stuff in the Eldar book, the new Eldar Codex, doesn't have some of the Psychic Awakening stuff from their book. Can I still use that Psychic Awakening book even though it's not in there, even though this is the new thing? Is it going to be something like in this new Eldar book now saying that, okay, since this new Eldar book's out, you can no longer use the Eldar stuff from the Psychic Awakening? I'm just a little bit confused at the statement they put out, so hopefully they can clear that up, because the last thing I really want to be doing now, for example, is if I was an AdMech player, buying like the new AdMech Engine War book, and then in a few months that stuff won't be in the new AdMech Codex. You know, some of it like was too broken or anything like that. Then really, what's the point of me spending some money on the the last 3 Psychic Awakening books? The general gist I got from this Q&A session, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to come. By the way, I think we're just seeing like the peak of the iceberg here at the moment. You know, it's just rising above sea level. But the peak of what I've got is that terrain is more or less going to become a massive part of this edition. Like before, it was just used to line of sight block, hide your units in and get a little bit of cover. I think they're going to be changing that massively. They're going to be, it's kind of going to be like an extra player in the game that has no ties to either team. You know, you can use it to your actual benefit. So I'm really looking forward to see how that goes. Hopefully they don't change too much, because as an Imperial Fist, as you know, I ignore cover. So what does that mean for me, Games Workshop? What does it mean for the glorious sons of Rogal Dawn? Do we just still yeet bloody terrain out the window? Like, I don't care if your guys are in a building, that means nothing to me. So it'll be interesting to see how it affects armies like my army and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm going to call the video there. There's a ton more to these Q&A videos. I just want to cover some of the stuff that really stuck out to me that, you know, I'm attracted to. But if you want to go and watch it for yourself, it's over on their Twitch channel. Just go and watch it, and I think it's like an hour long or something like that, and, you know, just go and listen, and you can find everything out over there. For those of you who did listen, you've been listening to this, what are the things that stuck out for you? What things are you looking forward to 9th edition? I'd love to get all your thoughts, feedback, everything like that on this video, and we can have a nice little chat, as we always do, down in the comment section. So thank you for coming, thank you for watching, as always. See you in a bit, have a great day, and bye-bye.